Welcome back, everyone. Looks like our parts have shown up. And I managed to get me some quality tools. Sure. So that means we're gonna have to get into Pandora's box. We're gonna give Kalama a shot. I'm not sure, the quality. I'm sure some people have good experiences and others don't. I don't really care. We're just gonna go ahead and put this bike back together, and hopefully she'll send. Not sure if I'm gonna replace on my piston or not yet. They told me that they did a fresh top end on that bike, and if they did, they weren't lying, which we'll see. I don't really want to have to pay for another honing, so it just depends on what it looks like in there. If it looks like I want to replace that piston, then I guess I'll take the head in and get it honed real quick. If it looks like a tiger got loose in there and scratched up everything, well, then I guess we have to buy a new head. And the bike continues to suck money out of me. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is start with some basics. Take out the 14mm drain plug here. Drain down the oil. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty speckly color, knowing our luck. I see a little bit of speckle. Yummy. What do we got on the plug here? I don't even think that they're magnetic. I don't see anything big. Next we're going to take off the shifter here. That's a 10mm. And then we'll get the chain off. Just take a screwdriver and slide off the master link. Don't think I really need to film that. I like the, oh, look at that. Paint. Like I said before, paint every bolt. I mean every bolt. I may skip around a little bit because this stuff is kind of easy. Taking off the motor accessories and getting the engine out in general is not really all that complicated. I did just test the compression, and we have about 122 to 123 pounds, roughly, depending on if you hold the throttle open or not. Sure, that's where we want that. Anyway, and that seems to be within reason. Some people say that's a little low, but I just looked it up and it seems about right. Got our carburetor undone. Was held in with the finest of plumbing materials. Hose clamp. That's nice and questionable. Just pretend we didn't see that. Alright. Looks like somebody has monkeyed around with the wiring. That's really not a surprise. But they also left it all color coordinated here, so it's pretty idiot proof. White with a red stripe. I should probably film what I'm talking about. Got black, yellow with red, black with purple. That should be fairly easy to get back where it belongs. Alright, that just leaves us the three mains. Now most of these quads have three, but mine's special and it only has two. No, that's a lie. It's supposed to have three, but down here, as you can see, that there's no bolt there. And you can also see that the frame tab is bent. Now I have a trick. Before I get too into this though, 1, 2, 3. I have a trick for this guy back here, because obviously it doesn't just hold the engine, it holds the swing arm assembly. So I'm going to show you a little trick if you want to, if you're in a hurry, kind of like how these guys were in a hurry reassembling this bike, as you can kind of tell. I'm going to show you a trick that kind of fits in that category. Alright, so I don't want to make this too confusing, but basically I don't... Hello. How are you doing? Do you approve? Does it smell good? Get out of here. Good Lord. Get out of here. This is unreal. It's not a wasp either, it's a bumblebee. They're not normally aggressive like that. Anyway. Okay, so once you get this nut out, you're going to want to send this bolt through. And obviously these travel arms are being supported by this bolt, so they're going to want to fall down. Now some people jack underneath them to try and hold it in place, but being that it's on an angle like this and the shock, it's probably not going to hold it in place very well. So what I'm going to do is, as I send this through, I'm going to be chasing it. Perfect donor drumstick. It's seen the end of its days. It finds new use as a wooden dowel. And that's another thing. If you don't have drumsticks, then go get yourself a wooden dowel or something. Just something that can fit this diameter nice and easy. And as we're hitting on that, we're coming out this way. And I'm going to say we're probably almost there already, so I could probably start just pulling this nice and easy. I'm going to get a vice grip on there or something. And it's just that easy. See? Engine is... it's hard to do this with one hand, but engine's unbolted. Here. Travel arms are still in place. There's no jack stand underneath. And now, once I get the engine out of the way, if you don't want to leave it like that, all you gotta do is just tap this back through and just leave it in place, and there you go. Just make sure you know where your rod is, so when you want to go and put it back together, you can just reverse the process. No jack stands required. Tightly fitted little heavy unit, I must say. It doesn't surprise me that they bent these down here and just decided that 2 was enough. So I went ahead and slid that back in a little bit. I'm going to leave the drumstick there. I don't want to booger up the threads too much, basically. But yeah, that was easy. And now I can roll this frame out of the way and we can get into the real guts of the project. This is the real hard part. Alright, I got our space all laid out. Now, I'm at a crossroads here. Normally you would pop this off, dome cover, and maybe give the piston a little bit of a feel and see if there's any kind of play. That will tell you whether or not they actually did the top end, because if you get any kind of, you know, shake on that piston, then they're obviously liars. And normally I would do that, but if I pop this off, I'm definitely going to have to do work here. Now I already have a new gasket, and you can save copper gaskets anyway, but I would obviously just use the new one I have. But you're kind of supposed to level the 2 surfaces. But I think we're just going to go ahead and pop the 4 here, slide her off, give it a visual inspection, look at the piston, see if there's blow-by or anything like that. If it looks good, we're just going to assume it's okay. Then we're going to go on and do the bottom end. We'll put it all back together. If it seems like there's something wrong, I still have that piston. Still have it in my parts. I can always pull this off later and then go ahead and do the top end afterwards. It's not that big of a deal. It's a little extra work, but it's not going to be a big problem. Best case scenario, they actually did do a top end and it's fresh enough that it doesn't really matter. And then we save some money on the hone, we save some money on getting the head and the jug leveled. It's fine. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and do the lower end. I'm just going to pop these 4 and I'll show you guys what the bore looks like. I'm kind of curious to see myself. Still hanging on a little bit. Come on now. There we go. There we go. Come on. Alrighty, let's see what we got down the jug here. Probably should get a light in there for you guys. I can still see some cross hatching. I got one groove right there. You can't really see it. It's not bad though. I'm going to go ahead and get a light and we'll see if we can show you guys a little more of that. Before I do, Cylinder, piston, don't look too bad, honestly. A little discolored, but she had an exhaust leak, so. Alright, so some of the sound we're hearing could very well be right there. That looseness, right there. From the crankshaft to the connecting rod. I went over to my new crank over there, and sure enough, it does not have any of that, so I'm willing to bet that that is definitely some of our issue. As far as the bore is concerned, it doesn't look bad. There is one slight groove there, but I don't see any discoloration in there or anything that suggests blow-by. I can still see crosshatch for the most part, so I think this is a newer head, newer jug. So I'm kind of glad I didn't split the dome. As far as using the piston over again, maybe, or I might just replace on it. I haven't really decided yet, we'll see. But I think I will definitely change out the crank, because that is loose, and that could be our sound right there. I know it indeed does have some kind of, I'm pretty sure, still pretty confident it also has a crank seal leak, so I don't know if those are normally like that, but I'll be honest with you, it was really easy to remove. As is this. Check this out. You know, the last time I did this, wasn't to this bike obviously, but the last time I took a piston off of a crankshaft connecting rod, I had to heat up the piston to even get it to move remotely easy without damaging anything. That came out extremely easy. Decided to take a break on the stator side there, try to get into the oil pump here instead. I was able to get 3 out of the 4 to spin, but looks like somebody had already spun this one out. I can't even get it to do anything, so we're going to have to get creative. If at first you don't succeed, grind again. So what you're looking at there is the result of converting a Phillips into a regular head. But only partly, because that's about all I can get without hitting the case. So I'm in the process of extracting that now. It broke free. It is rotated. I was able to do a combination. I had to switch to the Phillips head here, the regular head here. My goodness, I'll be right back with you in a second. This is not the first time that I've had to do this little technique. Well, there you go. A mostly Phillips, half converted to regular torque screw. Japan, stop this. Stop it. Just stop with the Phillips heads. My God. And you know what the problem with Phillips is? Even if you do have that, eventually they are going to wear down. I don't care who you are. Eventually they're going to wear down because Phillips heads are bad. They're bad. I'd rather it be a regular screwdriver. Yes, there's a chance of it spreading. Yes, there is. There's a chance of the head splitting in both directions. But you know what? I'd rather deal with that than deal with a stripped out Phillips. My God, that sucked. Thankfully, good old Dremel here. Oof. Useful little tool. Love these tools. Pretty good extraction here without getting too much on the case, so I only nicked the case just slightly. So, not a bad job. Pump's been running this whole time. How stupid. Alright, we're just getting on inside here. Got these surrounding perimeter screws to take out. One was missing. And one of them was an Allen, which I actually don't mind. None of these were really torqued on. They were pretty easy to get off. I also got rid of the starter lever. Alright, let's see. Keep this pressed. And up she goes. And there is the first layer of this onion. we got to make sure that we get all this old material off, because in order to introduce a new gasket, it's got to be clean. Goes without saying. So I'm just kind of degreasing this block and looking it over. I'd be willing to bet that nobody's ever been inside of this part of the engine, because that is a really, really tight fit. Doesn't look gouged at all. I don't see any kind of Yama bond or anything like that sticking out. Looking at the seam here, looks extremely tight. So I'm willing to bet this has never been split. This might very well be the factory original crank. And yeah, you can really see that play in there when I wiggle it back and forward. So I guarantee you that is some of your sound. But anyway, I'm just going to lightly go over it with my crappy engine cleaner here. Note the missing. So I've got no guilt in using up that whole bottle. I'm just going to lightly go over this surface until it's pretty much clean enough. It may not be perfect, but it'll be better than what the people before me did. And yeah, I'm going to get her nice and clean. And then I'll continue splitting her. I'm also going to go over to the frame and probably do some cleaning there too, because it's bad. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is remove our clutch pack here. We're going to take off these fasteners, probably do it in the old routine. I'm just going to be using a ratchet, so it's going to take a little bit, so I'll be right back with you in a second. One other little thing, these are number 8s, 8mm, excuse me. You can use a sock, I find, for a gear jammer. That's why that's there. It seems to work pretty good. I've noticed this guy that I'm kind of using as just a little bit of a reference mentioned needing gear jammers, but you really don't need them if you just, you know, do something like that. And it's just a sock, you know, it's nice and soft on the gears, so it's not going to hurt anything. So I just figured that I would kind of throw that little half-ass tip in there. I'm going to slide the clutch body out now. I'm going to go ahead and put a mark right here, and that'll signify which side is which, because you want to put them back in the same order. At least that's what I've been told. So that's what we're going to do. Just bending down the tab, and then we're going to take that nut off. Alright, we zipped that off. We don't have the clutch holder, so we went ahead and did the coal chisel method. Didn't hurt anything. Coal chisel. Yep. Oh, you think cold, like cold rolled steel? Oh, maybe. I thought it was a coal chisel because I thought they used it to chip out coal. Anyway, I could be wrong. Okay, so, alright, we pulled the clutch basket out here. This is my shim, my washer. It was on the back side. This documentation will also help me remember. I'm going to leave them like that. Hopefully they'll stay like that. But here's another simple, good idea. Just take some string of something, or rubber, or whatever, and just tie it in place. Aren't going to lose the order then. Alright, so our balancer shaft gear appears to have been monkeyed with at least once, because these are supposed to be against this. I haven't bent them. I guess in one way to look at it, the positive side is I don't have to bend them, but those are supposed to be against that nut. So someone's definitely monkeyed in here a little bit. So, like I was saying before, you really don't need a gear jammer. I find an old sock or a rag does just as good. I used the impact gun on this guy because it was really, really on there. So, it kind of sucked it into the gear body here, but that's okay. It's doing its job. Yeah, I meant to do that. Just got the drive gear off here. Like I said, this guy seemed to not be bent. I mean, I can see where it was previously bent, so Alright, so we'll get this balancer off here. This balancer gear. There's a little woodruff key on this shaft. There's also one here for your primary drive gear. And apparently these gears are also timed. There's timing marks on them. Probably can't see with my hand in the way. There's little timing marks on these gears, so I guess that's something we'll have to pay attention to when we go to reassemble. I'm just going to go ahead and take this guy as is, put him in his little box, and we'll just kind of keep it, you know, somewhat the way that it were. Those are supposed to be like that when you put it back together. Alright, so there's two washers, one on this side and there's one underneath. And then there's another one of those lock rings. So I'm going to go ahead and work my way getting that out, and then next I'm going to remove this shifter shaft. Okay, so out with this guy, of course. Seemed to come out really nice and easy, so it's probably not bent. And I'm no expert, but that seems loose. So I think I'm going to have to invest in the rest of the bearings. This one also seems a little loose. This guy's not so much. So this is on its way out. This one's bad. This one actually seems solid. I'm going to go ahead and remove the stopper arm next, and then we're going to go on and I'll zip these off. Bearing retainers. Of course, my retainer screws are all stuck, and they're the best kind of screw, Phillips. So we're going to use the old special driver, number 3 here. Give it some smacks, see if I can get it to loosen up. Really need to get me a tripod again. I used to have one, but it broke. It got dead. Okay, well, the old hammer torquer here got 1 and got 2 to spin. But this guy over here, we aren't having much luck. Been pounding away, and it is not coming free. It's actually starting to mar it just a little bit. And you know, this is exactly why I hate Phillips screw heads, especially for applications like this. I'm probably going to go ahead and try to apply a little bit of heat in this area down below and see if I can get the threads to do something else. Took a little torch heat here to the body that the screw is screwed into. And as she cooled down, I gave her a couple more strikes and she came loose. Bad practice, Japan. Bad practice. So what are we going to do? Reuse it. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the flywheel now. And you're never going to believe this, but I don't have the clutch fork. You know that part. I was able to get this off with the zip gun, 17mm on our electric impactor here. All I had to do was hang on to it with my hands. Every other bolt on this thing has been kind of a torque battle, every screw especially. I guess not everyone, but you know what I mean. There's been quite a few that have been. And usually one of the most stubborn ones just came right off, no problem. So even though I didn't buy the fancy clutch fork, I did buy a flywheel puller. Gone ahead and buttered her up with some of the excess transmission oil here. And this is a counterclockwise turn-in, so I'm going to just go ahead and get this spacer out of there and then screw it on in. And we are inside the stator. It is oily, which kind of tells me that that seal is donezo. And that's not a big deal because I already have another one. Alright, so mine was really stuck in there. Normally they just slide right out, but mine did not want to. So I recommend, if that happens to you, to grab onto this shield tab here, but don't grab the wires. Make sure you miss those when you do it, and give it a good pull. It will come out, but my goodness, I'm sure that I'm not the only one that's had them in that tight. Yeah, it did not want to come off. But we got it. Okay. I'm going to start turning out these bad boys. They're all going to be different sizes. Got the ugliest one turned out first, so that's good. And I got my little ugly case hardware pattern, and I'm going to stick those screws in because I guess they're all different lengths, so that'll help keep it all organized. Alright everybody, getting the old case splitter hooked on in here. Just going to make a Y. Use these studs here to hold it flush with the case and hold it into the case here, and hopefully it'll do its job. I sure hope so. Alrighty, starting to separate. Looks like the gap is already starting to grow right there. Come on, be split. Nope. I heard a pop. Come on. Well, we're in. Back to your body looks decent. Decided to take some time here in the natural light to talk a little bit about what we're seeing here. So I'm pretty sure this was the bearing sound we were hearing, because on the mains, which I'll flip it over, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not getting any kind of travel like that. Now that doesn't mean I ain't going to replace them, because I got a new crank, I might as well replace the mains too. This seal was definitely a problem. So another look at it, you can kind of see there's the spring there. That's supposed to actually be in a channel here. You're not supposed to be able to see that from this angle. So yeah, she was definitely sucking in her oil right there. I'd like to talk a little bit about this orange muck we're seeing, and to demonstrate something here. I've seen this before. When I worked on my Zundap Rickman, it had a lot of that present in the case too, and that case had definitely seen some moisture, and I think this one has as well, but this is actually magnetic. You can see that I'm moving the material with this magnet as it's jumping right to the magnet. Interestingly enough, the material in here is also somewhat magnetic. I've been able to get a little bit of reaction from it. Not much, but look at that. It's pulling right through my it's on my nail. Crazy. Anyway, these are ridiculously strong magnets. I mean, look at that. Pick up the gravel. What little metal content is in the gravel is enough. And here's another look at that main. See, that actually seems pretty good. So, I mean, realistically, I kind of feel bad pulling these, because these are the Japanese. They're the originals. I guarantee you these haven't been replaced, because most likely any replacements are either going to say China or not have any kind of branding on them, which basically means China. So I feel bad. I'll probably hang on to these bearings, but I am going to pull them for now, because we might as well. So yeah, that guy's definitely bad too. That's the clutch basket bearing, I'm pretty sure. Rides on that. This little guy don't seem too bad. Well, no, it's loose too. So yeah, bad, 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 and most likely bad, bad, bad on the other side too. Bad seals, bad connecting rod. Yeah, I'm definitely happy we pulled it apart. So now I'm going to go ahead and probably clean up on this a little bit. Okay, I just removed the gear body on the transmission and the balancer shaft. They just pull out. Same with these forks and the shafts. They just pull right out. It's not really a big deal. Forks look like they're in really good shape. The gears look to be in pretty good shape, as are the sliding dowels here. All that stuff looks good to me. I don't see any sign of any real, like, too bad a wear on them. So it's kind of interesting. These gears look really good. The counterbalance gears and all that stuff over here had quite a lot of corrosion on them, but the transmission looks pretty healthy. So I don't know what the deal is with all this corrosion in this engine, but it's only selective. Like, for instance, the shifter body here, the star, is pretty damn corroded there on the two bottom pegs, but everything else, there's just a little bit there. Everything else is pretty healthy. So anyway, next thing I'm going to do is pull this. I'm going to use that case splitter on the other side. Okay, families, here we go again. Same setup. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Okay. You know what? She's loose. Well, now she's loose. Thank you for your service. Well, besides the bearings, pulling them, and cleaning up the case, that's basically torn down. I don't have my tool for pulling the bearings, so I'm just going to go ahead and start cleaning up stuff. But yep, that's basically torn down.